Hello everyone, welcome to race classes. Today I will be discussing about cells and tissues. So first of all, before we begin this lecture, let us talk about what is biology. So it is the study of life, we all know that. It consists of two things primarily, plants and animals. So when we talk about these organisms, the building blocks of these organisms are cells. The way a particle is made up of atoms, the same way the plants, animal and other living beings are made up of cells. It is the functional and structural unit of life. Now, in this lecture, we'll be talking about tissue and differentiate it from cells. So there is a very large difference between cell and tissues. And we will also be able to talk about plant and animal tissues. उसके भी differences हम लोग देखने वाले हैं, and then we will be able to classify them. We are also going to study different types of tissues, like there are various types of tissues: simple tissue, permanent tissue, complex tissue, then meristematic tissues. We'll also talk about the structure, location and function of these tissues. So this is an example of cells, group of cells, that is tissue. The same way, this is also an example of tissue. Now let's talk about tissue in detail. What is tissue? It is a group of cells that are similar in structure, origin, and they also perform a specific function. Okay? Now, what are the examples of tissues? When we talk about plants, we have xylem and phloem. These are the example of vascular tissue. Okay? Vascular tissue has two components, xylem and phloem. When we talk about xylem, it helps in the conduction of water. When we talk about phloem, it helps in the conduction of food. Phloem, fur, food, fur. You can remember it like that. Then when we talk about the animal tissue, muscle is the example. We have seen bodybuilders flexing their muscles, they have biceps, triceps. So that is an example of muscle only. It can contract, it can relax, and it can cause movements. Next, we'll talk about the major differences between plant and animal tissues. We know that plants can easily animals can easily locomote. Locomotion is the feature in which an organism is able to move from one place to another. So we know that humans can move from one place to another very easily. But for plants, it's not possible. It is only stiff at one place. So that is the reason they require very less energy as compared to animals. So plants do not move, require less energy. Animals move from one place to another. They require more energy than plants. Most of the tissue provide them support and structural strength. In order for the plants to remain at one place, a lot of structural strength is required. But when we talk about animal tissues, they are the ones that can support movement. Then most of the tissues are dead in plants as they can provide mechanical strength easily and require less maintenance. Most tissues in animals are living, so they can move and perform several functions. We have already talked about this. Now, plant tissues, only certain parts of the plant can grow. The tissues present in such regions divide themselves and form new tissues. But animals, the growth is uniform. It is not very usual to see people whose growth are not uniform. And if that happens, if a person's growth in their body is not uniform, that means they have some kind of disorders, right? If the length of a human increases very abnormally, then it is known as gigantism. So these things are diseases, right? It's not normal. The structure of plant tissues is not very specialized as compared to animals, whereas the animal tissues, the organs and organ system in animals are highly developed. Now let's talk about the classification of plants, plant tissues. There are major two types of plant tissues, meristematic and permanent tissue. When we talk about meristematic tissue, whenever a cell is continuously dividing, that in that particular phase, the cell is known as meristematic tissue. When it loses the ability to divide, the moment it loses that, it is known as permanent tissues. Okay, so when we talk about meristematic tissues, they are the cells that divide. When we talk about permanent tissues, these are the cells that do not divide. Okay, now when we look into the further classifications, the meristematic tissue are divided into apical, intercalary, lateral. When we talk about apical meristem, first of all, let's talk about what is apical meristem. Apical meristem is derived from a word that is apex. Okay, what is apex? Any tip. In a plant we have root, shoot, so they have their particular and specific tips. So that tip is known as its apex. किसी भी चीज का जो सबसे upper हिस्सा होता है उसे हम बोलते हैं apex. So from there we get this word apical meristem. When we talk about intercalary meristem, it is present between the mature leaves and tissues. Okay. When we talk about the lateral meristem, it helps in the secondary growth. Now the word comes secondary growth. So what is that? There are two types of growth that are seen in plants. One is the primary growth, second is the secondary growth. In primary growth, the length of the plant increases. That means the height of the plant increases. But in the secondary growth, the width of the plant or the girth of the plant increases. So when we talk about apical and intercalary meristem, they help in the primary growth, but the lateral one helps in the secondary growth. This increases length, this increases the girth or the width. Permanent tissues are divided into again two types, simple and complex. Simple contains only one type of cells, like parenchyma, sclerenchyma. These are the example of cells. They have only one type of cells. But when we talk about complex tissues, they can have more than one types of cells. Like when we talk about xylem and phloem, so they have parenchyma, they have fibers which are made up of sclerenchyma. So there are many different types of cells that are seen there. So the simple one is divided into parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, protective tissue, and the complex one has xylem and phloem. Now let's talk about meristematic tissue or meristem. What is that? So they have the ability to divide and form new cells. We have already talked about that. They have the ability to divide and form new cells. The cell of meristems are active because they keep on dividing. They are known as active and have dense cytoplasm. Okay, the cytoplasm is very dense. The cell wall is very thin and they have a prominent nucleus. Now, nucleus was discovered by Robert Brown for the first time. They lack vacuoles. They do not have vacuoles. The reason is because the vacuoles are they provide very much rigidity to the cells. So because of that, there is a prevention of cell division. So in order for that to not happen, for the cell division to not stop, we don't want vacuoles in the cell. Now it increases length and width of plant. Three type of meristematic tissue on the basis of their location. We have already discussed this, but let me tell you about the positions. I told apical meristem is present at the apex, so you can easily see that here. Intercalary is present between the mature tissues, and here lateral meristem is present, which helps in the secondary growth. So growing tip of shoot and root increase the length of stem and root. Intercalary at the base of leaves and internode increase the length of internode or leaves. What is internode? So the part between the leaves, two successive leaves, is known as internode. Lateral meristem is also known as cambium. On the side of stem and root, increase the girth of stem and root. Now let's talk about permanent tissue. So whenever the cells lose the ability to divide, they convert into permanent tissue, and they acquire a specific function to perform. So they arise from meristematic tissue only. It's not this. They are interconvertible. Okay, meristems can change into permanent tissue. Then sometimes permanent tissue again gains the ability to divide. So that is interconvertible. They have definite shape, size, and function. The process by which meristematic tissue from permanent tissue is called differentiation. Now this is a very important term. What is differentiation? So the process by which the meristematic tissue converts into a permanent tissue is known as differentiation. Now, simple and complex permanent tissue. Permanent tissue is of two types, simple and complex. We have already talked about the examples. Complex one consists of xylem and phloem, and the simple one consists of your collenchyma, parenchyma, sclerenchyma. When we talk about the simple permanent tissue, the first one is parenchyma. What is parenchyma? It is the basic type of packaging tissue. What does packaging tissue mean here? So when we are making a building, so cementing is required, right? So in the same way, when the organism is built, so we have cementing there also. Here, what is acting as the cementing material? Parenchyma is acting as your packaging or cementing material. Has relatively unspecialized living cells. Thin cell wall, again, because wherever the cells are continuously dividing, so there we say it is thin cell wall. And large intercellular spaces. You can see here there are large intercellular spaces which are seen, which is not usual in other type of tissues. So that's why we are saying large intercellular space. It stores food and provides support to plant, found in soft parts of plant. Now, the parenchyma is able to modify itself to form chlorenchyma and erenchyma. What is chlorenchyma? Whenever the plant parenchyma contains chlorophyll, whenever the plant parenchyma contains chlorophyll, it is known as chlorenchyma. And what function does it perform? It can perform photosynthesis. Now, erenchyma is a specific feature which is found in the aquatic plants only. In the aquatic plants, parenchyma has large air spaces. Okay, wherever there is a large space, it is always occupied by air. Yeah, unless and until there is vacuum inside it, that is a different case. Generally, whenever there is a large space, it is occupied by air. To provide buoyancy. Now, what is buoyancy? In physics, you must have studied about it, that whenever we go inside the water, there is a force which is balancing inside the water. So that is known as buoyancy. So it helps in buoyancy. And what does it do? Exchange of gases. That is why erenchyma. So the word only signifies erenchyma means air. So it is helping in exchange of gases. This is the picture you can see here. They have elongated living cells. Now parenchyma cells they may be oval, circular in shape, but when we talk about collenchyma, they are elongated usually. And one major difference between collenchyma and parenchyma is that the corners of the collenchyma are very thickened because they have the deposition of pectin and cellulose. They have the deposition of pectin and cellulose in them at the corners. That's why it is highly thickened at the corners. Intercellular space is less. When we compare it with parenchyma, the intercellular space is a little lesser. Provide flexibility and mechanical support to leaves and stem and allow easy bending without breakage. Now, there are two major tissues that are present in plants that help in giving mechanical support. One is collenchyma, one is sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma is dead, collenchyma is living. Okay, so when we talk about, this is a very important thing, when we talk about living mechanical tissue, it is collenchyma. This is a very important question that is asked. Now, sclerenchyma, I will continue the thing that I wrote there, the same thing, dead mechanical tissue is your sclerenchyma. Okay, these are long, narrow, thick walled dead cells. Now, their cellulose and pectin, hemicellulose, I think I wrote there hemicellulose and pectin. Okay, the corners of collenchyma are not thickened due to cellulose and pectin because of hemicellulose and pectin. But when we talk about sclerenchyma, the corners are thickened due to the deposition of lignin. Okay, lignin, which act as cement and harden them. Intercellular space is almost absent, and it provides strength and rigidity to plant and make them hard and stiff. Present around vascular bundles in leaf veins, in the hard covering of seed, husk of coconut and nuts. So all the places where the part of the plant is very hard, there only we find sclerenchyma, like the veins of the leaf. When we talk about a leaf, it has veins. These are the veins. So there we find sclerenchyma. Then the hard covering of seed, husk of coconut is very hard, you must know that. So that there we find sclerenchyma. Epidermis. What is epidermis? The outermost covering of the plant is known as epidermis. It is usually made up of single layer of flat cells without intercellular spaces. Outer and side walls are thicker. On aerial parts, epidermal cells secrete waxy water resistant layer called cuticle. What is cuticle? It is water resistant layer. It is usually found in stem and leaf, and it is absent in root. Okay, in root it is absent, but in stem and leaf it is present. What does it do? It prevents the loss of water and injury and invasion of pathogens. What is pathogen? These are the any disease causing microorganism that is entering inside any human or plant body, that is known as pathogen. This is the diagram. You can see this is the upper layer of epidermis which has cuticle in it. Now let's talk about epidermis. What is epidermis? It is I've already told about the the outer part of the plant, but the plants of dry habitats have thick epidermis and thick waxy layer of cutin on their outer surface. Epidermal cells of root have root hairs which increase the surface area. Now, what does root hair do? The root hairs increase the surface area. So, when we talk about the small intestine of human body, it has microvilli present in them. What they do? They increase the surface area for absorption. The same way, when we talk about plants, they have root hairs. They also help in the increase in surface area for better absorption. You can see these are the root hairs. Then cork. What is cork? As plants grow older, epidermis is replaced by secondary meristem. We've already talked about secondary growth. So the meristem which helps in the secondary growth is known as secondary meristem. It divides and forms cells on both sides. Cells on outside cut off from this layer and form several layer thick cork or bark. Okay, so the primary meristem change into permanent tissue, which further change into, when they regain the ability to divide, they further change into secondary meristem, which give rise to cork or bark. The cells of cork are again dead without any intercellular space and have chemical suberin in their walls. Suberin is also a material which is similar to lignin and pectin. They help. They are also water resistant. You can see here the epidermis is ruptured to form new cells of the cork cells, which is the protective tissue. Now let's talk about stomata. So the basic idea of stomata, you might know that it helps in the exchange of gases, right? But we will study it in detail. Stomata are small pores in the epidermis of leaf. What are pores? Small holes. Stomata are enclosed by two kidney-shaped guard cells. So when we talk about stomata, let's see, for example, this is a stomatal aperture. It is guarded by two kidney-shaped guard cells. Okay, these are your guard cells. These are your, this is your stomata or aperture. So these cells, what they help? They help in transpiration. So they actually guard the stomatal aperture whenever there is where there is a need of the stomata to open. They help in the opening of the stomata or closing of stomata. So they guard that. And what does it help? It helps in the transpiration. Whenever the water inside the stomata is more, they open it so that water can pass through it. Transpiration also occurs through it. I have already told you that. They help in exchange of gases with the atmosphere. Now, one fact which I would like to tell you is that two kidney-shaped guard cells are present only in dicot plant. You know now that there are two types of plant. One is monocot, one is dicot in angiosperms. So when we talk about dicot plant, the guard cells is of kidney-shaped. But when we talk about monocot plant, the guard cells are dumbbell-shaped. Just for clearance of any confusion that arises. We talk about now complex permanent tissue. They are made up of more than one type of cells. Xylem, phloem are examples. Both are conducting tissue, form vascular bundles. They make possible survival of vascular plant in terrestrial environment. We've already talked about all these points. The only new point is that they help in the survival of vascular plant in terrestrial environment. What is terrestrial environment? So as we know that any organism that is living inside the water are known as aquatic animals or plants. So the same way the animals which are present on land are known as terrestrial animals or plants, and that environment is known as terrestrial environment. Then we'll come to xylem. What is xylem? The water conducting tissue. It has different constituents which are tracheids, vessels, xylem fiber and xylem parenchyma. The only living part here is xylem parenchyma, because it is the parenchyma is always living, we know that. So here parenchyma is going to be living, but the vessels, xylem fiber, tracheids, these all are dead. They contain thick cell walls. Except xylem, parenchyma, all are dead cells. Xylem fiber they provide support. Parenchyma store food and do sidewise conduction. Tracheids and vessels are tubular structure which conduct water and minerals vertically. So the xylem fibers, these are made up of sclerenchyma usually, and they provide support. Parenchyma, they store food, they do sidewise conduction, and the tracheids and vessels, these are the chief water conducting elements of the xylem. And the xylem always conducts water vertically. It is also known as unidirectional flow of water. Now let's talk about phloem, which helps in the conduction of food. Made up of 4 elements majorly: sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem fibers, phloem parenchyma. Here also parenchyma is going to be living, it is always living, and it is helping in the storage of food. But here the only dead element is the phloem fiber. Rest all the cells that are present in this tissue are living. Except phloem fiber, all are living cells. Sieve tubes are tubular cells with perforated walls. There are walls present there, and they transport food. Phloem transport food in a bidirectional manner. That means they can transport the food in 2 directions. That means both the directions. Now the sieve tubes are, they do not have any nucleus. Because of that, the companion cells actually control them with their own nucleus. Now, recapitulation. You might have understood these things, and you will be able to answer these questions that are asked. Now we will talk about animal tissue. We have completed the plant tissue part. Now we will be discussing animal tissues in detail. So the animal tissues are basically divided into 4 types. There are 4 types of tissues that are present in our body. One is muscular, one is nervous, one is connective, and one is epithelial. So the epithelial one is further divided into 5 parts: squamous, cuboidal, columnar, ciliated, and glandular. The connective one is divided into further some sections. Muscular is also divided into striated, smooth, cardiac, and then nervous system comes into the play. Now let's discuss about epithelium tissue in detail. Epithelium, epithelial, what does it mean? So it is the covering or protective tissue of the body. The way in plants epidermis is present, the same way in animals epithelial cells are present, which provide the protective covering to the animal. It is made up of tightly packed cells. Again, there is very negligible intercellular space that is present here. So they are also very tightly packed cells which form continuous layer with no intercellular spaces, separated from underlying tissue by basement membrane, which is fibrous. Generally the basement membrane are acellular. That means they do not have any cells. In general, the permeability of epithelial cells regulate the exchange of material between body and environment. All the exchanges that are happening in our body from the environment, it is facilitated with the help of this tissue. Then, if we talk about the types of epithelium, the first one is squamous epithelium. Squamous means they are made up of flat cells. Okay, thin and flat, it is written here. The location, lungs of alveoli of lungs, okay, not lungs of alveoli, alveoli of lungs, blood vessels, esophagus, lining of mouth, skin, all these consist of epithelial tissue. And what is the function? The basic function is exchange of substances between blood cells and alveoli. Okay. And when we talk about stratified squamous epithelium, this is simple squamous epithelium. That means it is made up of only one layer of cells. But whenever the squamous epithelium is made up of more than one layer of cell, it is known as stratified squamous epithelium, or you can say compound squamous epithelium. Stratified or compound, both these words can be used interchangeably here. Flat cells arranged in many layers to prevent wear and tear, and whenever, let me tell you this thing, whenever the compound cells are tissues are present, they help in the protection or the mechanical support mainly. Okay, whenever the single layer of cells or in the tissue are present, they help in the diffusion and secretion and other processes. Types of epithelium: stratified. You can see the squamous epithelium is simple here. That means it is only arranged in one layer. When we talk about stratified squamous epithelium, many layers are present. This is the basement membrane I was talking about. Types of epithelium. Again, columnar epithelium comes into the picture. The tall pillar-like cells, nucleus at the base. One important feature of the columnar cells is that because these are long cells, okay, long cells, so the nucleus is present at the base, not in between the cells. Generally, the nucleus is present in the center of the cell, but here the nucleus is present at the base of cell. Tall pillar-like cells, nucleus at the base, inner lining of intestine. These examples you have to learn. And the function is absorption and secretion. Ciliated columnar epithelium. Whenever the columnar epithelium has cilia present on its surface, it is known as ciliated columnar epithelium. These are tall cells again, but with cilia. They are present in the respiratory tract because the air needs to move inside the respiratory tract. So this passage of air needs to be facilitated by the cilia. These pushes the mucus forward to clear respiratory tract. Then comes cuboidal epithelium. The word cuboidal itself signifies that the cells are cube-like. So cube cells, kidney, tubules, duct of salivary glands are the example. This is the place where this is present, and here they provide mainly mechanical support. Glandular epithelium. Epithelium cells folds inward and form multicellular gland, acquire additional specialization as glands. So whenever these cells function as glands, they are known as glandular epithelium. The example are goblet cells, which are present in our in the mucous membrane and help in secretion of mucus. Mucus is usually secreted in the stomach. This is a picture of columnar cell. You can see the base of the cell has nucleus and the cilia is present at the upper surface in the ciliated one, and this is the basement membrane, and this is cuboidal. Here the cells are cube-like, and you can see here the nucleus is present in the center only, not in the base. Now let's talk about connective tissue. What does connective means? It is connecting different parts of the body. So when we talk about connective tissue, it connects various tissues in an organ. The loosely packed cells are embedded in matrix. Connective tissues usually are very loosely packed. They are not compactly or densely packed. Matrix may be jelly-like, fluid, dense, or rigid. What is matrix? So any fluid that is present inside the cell is known as matrix. Here you can see that loose connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue, cartilage, adipose tissue, blood, bone. These are the types of connective tissue that we are going to study in detail. First is blood. We all have heard about blood. What is blood? It is the matrix. The matrix of blood is fluid called plasma. So we all know that the blood consists mainly of water, just a second. The blood contains mainly of plasma and cells, blood cells. This plasma is 90% water, and these cells are of different types: RBC, WBC and platelets. So, the matrix of blood is plasma. It contains proteins, salts, hormones. The plasma, in plasma, RBC, WBC and platelets are suspended. Blood transports material to different parts of the body. So it is the medium inside our body from which different types of particles are transported. These are the different types of blood cells: neutrophil, erythrocyte, eosinophil, platelets, lymphocytes, basophil. Let's talk about bone. What is bone? Bone is strong and non-flexible tissue. The matrix is hard. It is made up of salts of calcium and phosphorus. The matrix contains bone cells or osteocytes. Okay, so the cells of bone, the cells of bone are known as osteocytes. The matrix contains bone cells or osteocytes. Bone forms skeleton that supports body and anchors the muscle. It provides mechanical support to the body. Now, bone has these structures known as Haversian canal, which contains blood vessels and nerve fibers. It has canaliculi or canaliculus containing slender process of bone cells or osteocytes.